الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه كما يحب ربنا ويرضى. يا ربي لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك وعظيم سلطانك. واشهد ان لا اله الا الله وحده لا شريك له، القائل في كتابه الكريم: كل نفس ذائقه الموت وانما توفون اجوركم يوم القيامه، فمن زحزح عن النار وادخل الجنه فقد فاز، وما الحياة الدنيا إلا متاع الغرور. وأشهد أن سيدنا حبيبنا محمدا عبد الله ورسوله، صفيه من خلقه وخليله، بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وكشف الله به الغمة وجاهد في سبيل ربه حتى أتاه اليقين. اللهم اجزه عنا وعن والدينا وعن الإسلام والمسلمين خير ما جازيت به نبيا عن قومه ورسولا عن أمته. اللهم احينا على سنته وتوفنا على ملته واوردنا حوضه واسقنا من يده الشريفه شربه هنيئه لا نظمأ بعدها ابدا. اللهم اجمع بيننا وبينه كما امنا به ولم نره، ولا تفرق بيننا وبينه حتى تدخلنا مدخله. ثم اما بعد, dear respected brothers and sisters, I had a subject for today's khutbah about the death of our dear sister Kathy. Made me change this subject to another subject, which is an attempt to answer one of her questions. When I saw her last time, she asked me why bad things happen to good people. This is because she endured patiently so much health challenges, and it's natural for these kind of questions to come up to our minds. And I think perhaps every one of us at a certain point in our life will ask this question: why bad things happen to good people? And this is a huge philosophical question that started long ago in the ancient Greek philosophy with a philosopher actually known as Epictetus, known in Arabic books of philosophy as Abokrat. So Epicurus actually presented this, what sounds to be a logical argument, that he argued that we cannot reconcile or believe in an omnipotent, all-good, all-knowing God with the existence of evil and suffering in the world. These two things cannot coexist. That was his argument. And from that time until modern time, that was or is the strongest argument for atheism. Actually, some claim that the problem of evil is the rock of atheism, upon which all belief systems are crushed. I've seen modern scientists who do not believe in God because of this problem, that existence of evil. How could a good, caring, loving, merciful, omnipotent, all-knowing and all-able allows this evil to happen? And this question rises up especially in the time of crisis. It affects significantly philosophy in the modern time after World War I and World War II. Millions of people were killed and thousands of cities have been destroyed. It was a huge crisis. And in modern time, from that time until now, this idea or notion of problem called the problem of evil is the rock of atheism. People simply reject God because God was unwilling or unable to stop this evil. So what kind of God that allows this evil to happen if he was able to stop it? Or he cannot stop it and therefore is not omnipotent God. Because by definition, God is able to do anything else, right? So this is the argument many are using. And the argument sounds logical, but it is not. In fact, there are so many arguments, may sound logical and rational, but again, they are not. Evil and suffering is the word cannot be denied. Nobody can deny the existence of evil, bad things, crises, calamities, whether it's man-made or natural calamities, illnesses. Innocent kids are born with cancers and so many other diseases. And many people live their entire life seeing no justice. So many Africans who have been enslaved by the white European man, and they lived their entire life in slavery. Born in slavery and died in slavery. Their entire life was misery. They have never seen justice. So why would this happen? Why this white man was able to do this to the black man? And again, no apology or no sorrow for what happened. Why this evil happened to these people who have done nothing wrong or born in this misery? Why is that a bunch of worshippers would go to a place of worship and for some reasons caught fire, and many innocent people in the day of holiday or Eid, they lose their life. They are coming to worship God and they've lost their life. What a tragedy. It reminds me of a real joke. When someone actually went to make Hajj, and when he came back from Hajj and met people as he was entering the city, so what's going on? They said, oh, your house burned down to ashes. And then he looked at the heaven and said, God, what is this? That we go to maintain your house and you destroy our house? This is not what came to his mind. And sometimes we think this way, that if we worship and if we do fulfill our obligations, then we expect God to make our life perfect. This is also a misunderstanding of the nature of this life and the plan of God. God does not think the way we think. It's something that we need to keep in mind. Actually, many theological studies and responses came about. Actually, there's a new branch of theology was established. It's called theodicy. Theodicy is the argument for justifying God. Theodicy. In the Torah, the answer to this problem of evil is that evil and punishment and illnesses, and crises, and calamities, and sorrow, and sadness, all these kind of evil, they happen as a result of our misbehavior or our sins. So God creates and He punishes. So the creation and the concept of reckoning are two in one. Creation and Hisab, reckoning. So when we do good, then we are rewarded. When we do bad, then we are punished. So punishment is part of our mischief and misbehavior. And that's inevitable. And this remains, there will be more questions actually unanswered. Why then evil, bad people, they live healthy, long life, and bad people take the punishment? That these corrupt leaders who are causing this misery, they should be punished, not the innocent people. Right? In 1965, actually, there was a Christian theologian. His name is Alvin Plantinga. Still alive, he's in Ann Arbor. And this book that he wrote, God and Other Minds, actually was revolutionary in trying to provide a religious answer to this question of evil, the problem of evil. When he argued, in a nutshell, that the logic or logical premise that good God and evil cannot coexist is not necessarily correct. Again, one of the big mistakes when we do when we think about these kind of divine will is that we think of God as a human being like us, with limited knowledge, and God, sometimes we think that He thinks like us and He behaves like us. So from Islamic perspective, so let me go back to Plantinga, who said that the premise itself is not necessarily correct. Good God and evil can coexist. And he said this is if there is a good ethical reason for these evil to exist. Does God tell us all the time what is his good ethical reason for evil to exist? No. And God never promised that he will tell us why he does things. لا يسأل عما يفعل وهم يسألون. It's not to be questioned, to ask about why he's doing what he's doing. We will be asked about our deeds. Nobody can question God. Sometimes he explains, and sometimes he does not. And that's the value of faith and belief. The ultimate wisdom of God that we might not be able to comprehend. So, what would be the good reason for this and that? And first of all, God never promised that he will give us an explanation to everything he does. He does not have to. He doesn't have to. And two, we cannot comprehend God and his acts. Because we are limited in knowledge and ability. Our life is short anyways. We don't know beyond what we see, what we feel, what we touch. And again, when we make us equal to us, this is very problematic because it reduces God to our ability, our limited ability of knowing and understanding things. We try to understand the hikmah, the wisdom of God, and if we understand God's wisdom, which is unlimited, we'll become gods ourselves. Because one of the definitions of God is the one who has ultimate wisdom. We cannot comprehend. You cannot put an ocean in your mug. The mug has a certain capacity and you need to understand this. It's irrational to think that the entire ocean can be placed in the mug. So this is actually, from Islamic perspective, we understand that we cannot understand everything God does. We cannot, because his wisdom is unlimited, infinite. Our knowledge, our ability to understand is so much limited to time and place and our short personal experience. The problem is, after the French Revolution, philosophy actually was built around the notion that man, not God, is the center of the world. The revolution was against religious institutions, the church who practice monopoly on knowledge. Only religious people know everything. No philosophy or scientists are needed. Only source of knowledge is the church. And the revolution was against this, to open the door for people to think and create and innovate. That was a natural reaction, perhaps back then. And this philosophy since then actually made man the center of the world, not God. From our perspective as Muslims, that God is the center of the whole existence. He is the beginning, he is the end. And we have to be humble to understand the limitation of our knowledge and ability of comprehending. وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. You have been given so little of knowledge compared to the knowledge of God. We're still trying to discover ourselves. We don't know so many things about ourselves. Carlyle actually wrote this book, Man the Unknown. What we know about ourselves is much less than what we don't know about ourselves. We're still in the beginning of discovering our physiological and especially psychological being. We don't know so much about psychology, we don't know how our brain functions, we don't know why causes these kind of disease and how to treat them, we don't know. Still discovering ourselves, let alone our planet Earth, let alone our galaxy and millions of galaxies around us, our knowledge is so limited, our life is so short. But we are so arrogant. We, in general, in man, so arrogant that we are the center, we ought to know everything. We must provide an answer, we must have an answer to everything. And again, Islam encourages us to think, reflect, come up with new ideas, but we need also to know our limits. Be realistic. Also, from Islamic perspective, what we perceive as evil, is it absolute evil? Sometimes we think of evil as absolute evil. There's no good can come out of this. That's not also true. If we think rationally, that every crisis that comes with some benefits. And at time of high emotions, we don't think rationally sometimes, but when we look at the big picture, we think, or may find out, that some good comes from this evil, and this evil is a necessity for our survival as human species. I was watching this documentary about jungles and forests and how the size of forests are shrinking because of human greed, expansion, and producing. And part of this documentary was about wildfire, which would be the worst thing that can happen to any jungle or any forest. Wildfire, everything is burned, and it's burned for days. And the scientist that I think it was Sir David, what was his name? Edinburgh. He was saying that this was a necessity. It was very good for the forest, for the health of the forest. And the reason is that when this forest grows so significantly, then the bottom of this forest is filled with fungus and bacteria that really erodes the trees and the wildlife there. When fire comes, then all these plantations and trees will be burned. And guess what? It will start producing new, fresh, young trees, which is very healthy for the cycle of these forests. Looks like a full destruction, but in reality, this is the only way for these forests to survive and to start again, healthy and young again. Death is another example. Who likes death to happen to us or to people we love? Who don't like it? It's part of our nature. We escape if we try to create medicine and nurture our bodies, stay away from danger, because we want to survive. Right? But if you really think about it from a broader perspective, the only reason why we have jobs and homes is because those who came before us left. This is how this world renewed itself. We don't like it, but it's a necessity for the survival of human beings and this life on Earth. It's another example of something that we think is absolute evil, bad. It was narrated that when Allah created Adam and Eve and told the angels that they will continue to grow, and they said to God that then planet Earth will not be able to accommodate all of them. If they continue to grow, they've reached the point where place or space is not going to be enough for them. And Allah told them that I'm creating death. They said, well, if you create death and keep taking the life of their loved ones, then their life will be so sad. What kind of life is this? And God said, I will create hope. That's part of the divine plan. When we take our kids, all parents know, remember this, when we take our kids out to pediatricians to give them these immunization shots, that's perhaps the worst memory our kids have. They don't like it. And when they grow old enough to know that they are there and they see the syringe and they became terrorized. And usually the nurse asks parents to hold strongly their child so that the needle does not break inside his or her body, right? It's all evil. From the child perspective, it's all evil. What good can come out of this? Why my parents are doing this to me? The most beloved, the most beloved ones to me, are doing this to me. And they allow this stranger to poke me and cause this pain. And some of them scream, and some of them actually go into, the mood of almost like hysteria, that they get like crazy, scream and cry. Parents hold them fast, they get the shot. So from parents' perspective, that's a good thing for them. It's okay to go through some pain for better reason, to achieve better results, to build this immunization and strength. That's necessary to protect our children. We parents love them more than anyone else. We do this to them. Maybe they hate us for a while, but eventually they'll understand when they grow up, they'll thank us. And sometimes we behave like children who don't understand why things are happening. But as believers, we cannot fully understand the wisdom of God. But we return the unknown to the known. Al-mutashabih and al-muhkam. What is confusing, we don't fully understand, we return it to what we believe in. That God is the most merciful and He is the most wise. And there's wisdom behind every act of God. Maybe we don't understand it now, but Day of Judgment, we'll be able to know why these bad things happen to us. It was not pure evil. And the story of Musa al-Khadr will end with this in Surah Al-Kahf, the cave. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala narrated to us this story that really gives us understanding of this idea of good behind evil. Musa alayhi salam was giving a speech and he was asked, who is the most knowledgeable person? He said, I am the most knowledgeable person, because he was talking to God. And then God revealed to him that there's someone I want you to accompany to be his student. I gave him knowledge that you don't have. And now Musa alayhi salam, the Kalim, the Prophet, became a student. And this is one of the adab of dealing with scholars. Musa alayhi salam searched for this person, traveled, and he was exhausted until he found him, and then he asked him, as Musa, he said, okay, I'm Musa, I'm here to learn something from you, God told me that. He said, هل أتبعك على أن تعلمني مما علمت رشدا? Would you please allow me to accompany you so that I can gain some knowledge from you? And this man told him, you won't be able to be patient. إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا. إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا. كيف تصبر على ما لم تحط به خبرا؟ قال ستجدني إن شاء الله صابرا ولا أعصي لك أمرا. Again, this is the humility of students of knowledge. He said, Inshallah, you'll find me patient. Please allow me to join you. So, okay, I'll allow you to accompany me with one condition. Don't ask me about the strange things that you will see. Deal. Then they went together and they actually boarded a boat to cross the river. And in the middle of the river, he actually digged a hole in the boat that's owned by poor people. That's the only means for living. And Musa screamed, what are you doing? You're causing these good people to lose their living and people will drown. Why are you doing that? And the man, this scholar told him, I told you, didn't I tell you that you'll be impatient? He said, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. And then when they crossed the other side, he saw a bunch of kids playing, and he picked one of them, and he killed this innocent boy. What good can come out of this? That's pure evil, isn't it? And Musa again raised his voice. What are you doing? Why are you killing such innocent child? He said, didn't I tell you that you'll be impatient? He said, I'm sorry, I forgot again. If I did this one more time, I will be separated from you. Then they entered into this city or town or village. They were so exhausted and hungry and thirsty, and they asked the people of this village to provide for them some food and water, but were two bad people, and they refused actually to give them anything. Then he saw this house that was about to collapse, and he worked hard and asked Musa to join him. They were working hard to renovate it and to rebuild it or to support it so it can live longer. And again, Musa said, why are you doing this service for free to these bad people? So, okay, now it's time for you to leave me. Well, he explained to him, at the end of the story, he explained to him why he did what he did. Musa has the knowledge of Sharia. He has the law, what's haram, what's halal. He said, don't kill, right? But this man did something opposite of this. What was corruption? And he caused corruption when he broke the ship and when he worked for free. And he said that the reason why God told me to cause this corruption or to break the bottom of this boat is because there was an evil king who actually sees and takes, or hijack all good ships and boats. So if this boat was functioning normally, then he would have taken this from these people, and these poor people lose their means of living. And this boy that he killed, he said, because God told me that this child is a child of two good parents, and he was, in the future, will be a burden on them. He will be a disbeliever, and he will cause so much pain to his parents. So God ordered me to do this, and God would replace them with a righteous child. Again, from the parents' perspective, that's pure evil. But from Allah's wisdom, that's the best thing that can happen to them. And this building or house that was about to collapse, it belongs to two orphans, and their father was a righteous man, and he left some treasure for them hidden in the basement of this house. If this house were to collapse, then these evil people would have taken this treasure from these orphans. So I made it stronger so it can last longer, so these orphans would grow up and then they can find their own treasure and benefit from it. Read this story, which tells us that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informed us about what happened in the unknown to us, something beyond our knowledge and comprehension, it's not pure evil as we think. It might be some good. And again, we need to be humble to understand that we cannot fully understand the wisdom of God, because we are creation of God with limited knowledge, with limited experience. So good God and evil can coexist. We just need to reflect about ourselves and what we are doing, what's the purpose of life in this world. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم فاستغفروه. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم، وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. عباد الله اتقوا الله واطيعوه، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله يذكركم، اشكروه على نعمه يزدكم، ولذكر الله أكبر. الله يعلم ما تصنعون. اللهم إنا نسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى. اللهم إنا نسألك رزقا طيبا وعملا متقبلا. اللهم أصلح لنا ديننا الذي هو عصمة أمرنا، وأصلح لنا دنيانا التي فيها معاشنا، وأصلح لنا آخرتنا التي إليها معادنا. اللهم اجعل الحياة زيادة لنا في كل خير، واجعل الموت راحة لنا من كل شر. يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك نستغيث، أصلح لنا يا رب شأننا كله، ولا تكلنا إلى أنفسنا طرفة عين ولا إلى أحد من الناس يا رب العالمين. اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا ورزقا واسعا وشفاء من كل داء، ونسألك الغنى عن الناس يا رب العالمين. اللهم إنا نسألك خشيتك في الغيب والشهادة، كلمة الحق في الغضب والرضا، والقصد في الفقر والغنى. نسألك إيمانا لا يرتد، ونعيما لا ينفد، وقرة عين لا تنقطع. ونسألك الرضا بعد القضاء، ونسألك برد العيش بعد الموت، ولذة النظر إلى وجهك، والشوق إلى لقائك، بغير ضراء مضرة ولا فتنة مضلة. اللهم زينا بزينة الإيمان، واجعلنا هداة مهتدين. اللهم اقسم لنا من خشيتك ما تحول به بيننا وبين معاصيك، ومن طاعتك ما تبلغنا به جنتك، ومن اليقين ما تهون به علينا مصائب الدنيا. اللهم متعنا بأسماعنا وأبصارنا وقواتنا أبدا ما أبقيتنا، واجعله الوارث منا، واجعل ثأرنا على من ظلمنا، وانصرنا على من عادانا. اللهم لا تجعل مصيبتنا في ديننا، اللهم لا تجعل الدنيا أكبر همنا ولا مبلغ علمنا ولا إلى النار مصيرنا يا رب العالمين. اللهم انصر الإسلام وأعز المسلمين، اللهم انصر دينك وكتابك وعبادك الصالحين، اللهم انصر من نصر دينك واجعلنا منهم، واخذل من خذل دينك ولا تجعلنا منهم يا رب العالمين. اللهم اغفر لجميع موتى المسلمين، اللهم اغفر لجميع موتى المسلمين الذين شهدوا لك بالوحدانية ولنبيك بالرسالة وماتوا على ذلك يا رب العالمين. اللهم اشفنا واشف مرضانا ومرضى المسلمين، وارحم موتانا وموتى المسلمين برحمتك يا ارحم الراحمين. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى اله واصحابه اجمعين. اقم الصلاه.
الله